Okay, let's start the stream and get going. This time I can show you my face, guys. It's starting up. Do you have music on? We should. Okay, we are live. And we are listening to Lightfall, Fastfall. Welcome, everyone. It's time to start the stream and do a little more game art, a little more creative painting. I'll try to interact with you as usual. I have the chat on the other screen, but maybe a little less than the other day, so I don't waste as much time on the character. You can see the result from the previous stream 2 days ago, Godette, and now we are going to do Robi, the robot, the companion. Hi there, hi everyone. Okay, so I've optimized my shortcuts a little bit this time around to work slightly faster. I'm not in my room as well. This will help to work a bit faster. So here's Robi's concept, full body concept, and I'm going to use both characters because I want these rounded stylized legs to work with the character, which we are going to use for some animation tutorials. But we'll talk more about that later. Okay, so I'm gonna start tracing the character. One thing I should try is actually this workflow that I want to show as well. When you have to create a character's shapes, one way you can do it is using the shape drawing tools. So for example, I want to draw the character's head here. So I'm going to use two ellipses that are roughly the same size. Not exactly the same, but roughly, you know. And then I'm going to connect them. First, I'm going to erase some of them. Hold on, where is... Okay. I created a new layer by accident. So you create the base ellipses like that. This one I'm going to keep around because I want to keep that ring. But you erase the parts that you don't want, like that, and then you connect them however you want. One way is this V in Krita to create straight lines, so I'm going to create straight lines to connect the two. And so I was not satisfied with my speed and productivity on the last stream, so I have a new keyboard that's optimized for programming with VI, and it's a Unix style layout. So for design, you have to readapt everything to use it. And so I changed some of the keys. For example, I can add new layers with N directly, so I can do everything with my left hand now. And one thing I noticed is now you have a right-click in text menu for transforms. So you can quickly fire the liquefy transform, which is really one of Krita's strengths. You don't have to go to a separate window or something. You can edit your transforms anytime, and you can transform entire groups of characters. So you create geometrical shapes that are precise and fast to draw, and once you are done with them, you just have to click and hold on, limit to current layer. What's the problem? Is it the threshold? Why is it filling? No, I created a new layer again. Hey everyone, nice to see some familiar faces again. Alright, so Robi, I'm going to pick some colors from the base here, although we're going to change them to make this character's colors complement that of Godette. And that of Kitty. And Kitty, I want it to be orange or something to be a slight, like a wink to a nice reminder of David Revoir's Carrot. David Revoir, who's making an open comic book, Peppa and Carrot. So for Robi, I think the problem is if we keep the blue lights, it's not going to be too great. You can see there are hints of orange and blue on the character. On the original one, I'm considering making the lights green or yellow. What should it be? Okay, let's grab a few well, I don't need to put the colors like that. I'm going to keep the palette around the character, but I do want to fill this body part. Let's use something like that. I also remapped instant fill with foreground to Control F. So same idea, it's right under my hand. So now once you have these base circles, wow, DJ doing a super chat. Thank you very much. Is there anything that you can do? And hey, what did I miss? You didn't miss much, but you missed a quick tip. You can go back in the video to see how I'm using shapes. I'm going to show it again to shape the character. Is there anything I can't do? I can do a bit of everything, but I can't do the work of a super talented and super experienced game artist that would specialize in that. But I can solve some problems if you want. Okay, so I'm going to reuse the shape here on the character and mask out some of it. How much of it do I want to mask? I'm going to duplicate it straight to create the second speaker parts and set it in perspective like that compared to the first one. Okay, and now that I have the two, I merge them. I'm going to make them clip to the layer behind it, and I really want to use weighted smoothing because the stabilizer adds too much lag, and I want to be fast more so than to make beautiful lines at this point. We have a lot to do with this project, and we have a limited amount of time until the next Kickstarter now. There's a new crowdfunding campaign coming in a little while. We're currently preparing it to make it possible to continue covering Godot and all that stuff, and to keep now it's a bit similar to what's happened with the Godot development. You know, it's to keep Guilherme around. We need money, as you'd expect. Hold on, have I been painting? Alt click. Okay, my bad. Did I mess up? What did I do? Yeah. Okay. I have to fix that. See, talking and doing the stream at the same time is never too easy, but okay. Let's try to work a little faster now. If you have any questions, anytime. Otherwise, I'm going to leave you with great music from Lifeformed. Thank you very much, Bad Samaritan. And so I can also tell you that the next project, we're moving forward with that idea of doing things in the open from the start. And so it's going to involve some open projects that this way really, even if we make, you know, premium courses and all, we will have stuff that benefits everyone. Okay. So I think I said, yeah, Shift V to control the visibility. All right, let's use shapes again to draw the character's various body parts, because we can draw with the brush here. What if I do? Yeah, if I don't mess up. If I don't mess up with the alpha settings. Okay, so I'm going to draw all the shapes now. with that, and I think I'll be a bit easier because I've been doing more graphic design and vector art lately, so I'm more comfortable with that workflow for now. Okay, so we're going to do that. And the next parts are going to be, how do we do that? How are we going to split the character? Okay, so I do want to reduce the character's size. Bezier curve doesn't seem to have a shortcut either. All right. And yeah, one advantage of working with shapes like these is that you can preview the shape even if you have layers in front of them. So that's quite nice. And as soon as you input the final click, you get the shape drawn. Then all you have to do is go back through the layer and use the tool, the fill tool, to fill them all, right? And when you have smaller limbs like the arm, well, you can just draw them if it's a little faster, you know. As Robi is a robot, it's going to be faster also to draw than the other character, because the shapes are a little less organic, right? How are we going to do this one? DJ is asking, I'm building a Linux workstation for my artist. So I'm working on Windows at the moment, and if you look at my recent post on Twitter, I'm experimenting with the Pop OS right now, and I have had issues. I can't reliably boot on it, and I've had problems with the Wacom device just popping off, it's becoming unusable, crashing completely a few times. One guy I'm working with, Razvan, who also has a YouTube channel, has been working with Ubuntu for a little while, and David Revoy is doing that as well. My only problem at the moment is the compatibility of my device, my computer. What? It's in erase mode again. Okay, so sadly, if you mess up, like for example, if I'm in erase mode, because I've erased something on the shape, you lose, you instantly lose the path you traced. So that's not best. Okay, but well, this workflow seems to do the job. I'm experimenting live, by the way, because I have a limited amount of time to work on everything. So I've prepared this stream this time around, but I did some, adjustments after the previous stream, but I still have to try some ideas as they come right now. Okay. Do something like that. Okay, we're going to have a body part, like, how do we do this right? Because we want it to be in front of the body, this belly, we want to animate this one. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to have to make it something like that. I'm trying to think about how we're going to animate the character afterwards in Godot. Just trying to get the sprites not perfect, but okay. So DJ, going back to that Linux question, the main problem you have with Linux is if you're working on 3D, Blender is an excellent program. Until now, for 2D, it's hard to recommend. If you're doing commercial work, it's hard to recommend Linux over Windows or Mac for productivity, and productivity only, really in particular. The problem being that with all the ecosystem, the plugins, the tools that you have for all kinds of programs. So you have Photoshop, but now you also have Affinity Designer, which I own. Like the difference in productivity compared to the program's price makes it so it's hard to choose Linux over it. I would recommend to go the Krita route like we are doing now, and I want to do for GD Quest, only if you have the resources to write your own tools and if you want to go that approach. So if you can write add-ons, or we are going to write one for improve the asset pipeline, so export game characters and all, specifically for the needs of games, right? Everything I'm saying now is related to games. If you don't have the resources to create your own tools, you're just going to waste too much time, because Krita doesn't need a lot of things, but it does need some bridges between the features to allow you to work really, really fast for game art. That you have in Photoshop, for example, already, like everything built in particular, and in Affinity Designer as well, you have a complete export system. That's quite important. And you also have tools to do graphic design, as well as doing game art that's a bit more organic, like what I'm doing right now. So you really get the ability to create game sprites and to create UI elements, for example, that would be the ones that require a bit more vector tools or things like these, a bit of flexibility on that part. Okay, I'm going to pick a blue for the back part. Should have changed colors a bit more over there. Okay, so we're going to do that. I'm going to do an arm piece, going a bit faster on the back part because it's not as important. And finally, we're going to have the last arm piece before we get to add some details and exaggerate the firearm and all that stuff. So when you have the base body parts, I recommend really for each limb to use different colors, and like I've done right there. You go to the fill tool and you set it to limit current layer. I'm having a little grow selection to fill so that there's no gap. If I use the Photoshop mode, this is how the tool works in Photoshop. It's very fast, the algorithm, but it's going to create that ugly gap. So instead, Krita has a nice fill option that lets you do this, get a clean fill for every part on the character. Now I'm going to fill with black, and I press R to go select every one of the body parts, and then I click inside of the part to fill it. Yeah, so you see, for example, tools to quickly recolor the various body parts or things like these. In Photoshop, at least you had macros to do some of that you could assign to a key. In Krita, you'll have to do a bit of Python. But I'm looking to move to Linux, so expect that maybe in not so much time. Someone's asking, why are you doing the streams that early? Actually, it's not early here, it's 3 p.m. So I just do the streams when I can stream. That's about it. Okay, so we're going to put the arm forward under the head. So we're going to have, okay, I'll try to be a bit more organized than last time. So head, arm left, which is always going to be the front arm. Naming is quite important for these sprites, by the way, to automate the animation workflow. Save time that way. What is it? Ah, this is the headpiece. Okay. Yeah, whatever. So you're going to be part of the head. That's one of the things we want to change with Razvan. We want to have, well, Razvan is going to work both on the add-on that we are going to make. There's very little code in it right now, but there's at least a start. And this add-on, we're going to have some tools like to export, but for the needs of game artists. And then there are some features that I'm hiring him to add to Krita. So discussed with the developers, and in general small things that make sense to add to the base program and not to the add-on, because Raspberry has experience with low-level code. So yeah, we're going to see how that goes. Okay, so I need you to be in front. What did I do? What? Hey. Okay, it's just taking a bit of time to update. Okay, that is good. Now we have this part is going to be melded together. This is the chest piece, so this is going to be the chest, which is behind the leg. Then we have the back leg here, and then we have the back arm. See, for example, a tool that will be nice, very simple, but select your folder like that and just quickly color them with a succession of different color labels to make them easier to spot, instead of having to do it by hand like that. Small things like these. Are you in a maker space or something? No, I'm at home. I'm working from, yeah, the kitchen. As I like to say. Literally, I'm in a kitchen. Alright, so we have the character's base, and I'm going to use a different color here. Alright, so we can get started. For the head, we're going to add some details already. So, which one do we use as a reference? Yeah, so what, among the things that Raspberry should add, for one, there's the ability to, if you have multiple levels unfolded at the moment, there's no option to recursively fold everything. So that's something that would be very helpful to help organize, like you alt-click or something on the layer and it would fold all subfolders like that. And the next thing he's going to add is the ability to send layers to the front or bottom of a group, which GIMP has, for example, but Krita doesn't have at the moment, which is important when you start to work with quite a lot of layers. Okay. All right, let's see. So now the two concepts are a bit off compared to one another. Let's see. This one. Yeah, they are a bit different now, as you'd expect, though. Oh, it's not selecting the entire arm here. But yeah, there are really things that Krita can do especially well. So for example, the ability to make a selection and to transform an entire group, lots of layers, using that selection. That's very helpful, very, very helpful. It gives you a lot of flexibility. All right, let's try to move this arm piece. The character, bit more details on the body. How about that circular piece in the middle? So I don't know if I want to do the two pieces like what we have on the concept, but How about the silhouette if I do that? So I push it like that. And this, yeah, the ability to sculpt the pixels anytime, for example. That's quite nice. Just for the needs of concept art, right? Trying out ideas. Yeah, but I think the characters around this is... should be nice that way. Okay, next up, I want to scale the firearm here. Make it a bit larger. So right now I'm really focusing on the silhouette. Okay. And I don't know if we want to give him fingers or something along those lines, because it's going to be a little extra work to animate. And I also want the character's weapon in combat to be bilboquet, so throwing a ball that's attached to the character's arm using a string. All right. Okay. And the other concept, maybe I can put it in front. Let's see what it gives us. Well, it's not too detailed, so I guess we'll work with the more detailed concept. Yeah. Alright, let's create one more circle here. So I'm gonna go on the head layer, create a new layer for this one. And I forgot, that's really one thing where... and now I have the wrong brush. Let's go back to you. Okay, now it's time to start picking the colors. So, the original character has some dark colors for some of the pieces, so let's try with that. There was also that small Robi sprite, maybe I should bring it up. How's the sound and how is the music, everything? My hand also got coming in front of the camera because, well, it probably does from time to time. So that's the original character sprite, the original robot, right? And let's see what we can do with that circle. Make it a bit larger, maybe. Turn it a bit, rotate it in space. Okay, and we're going to... The thing is, Godette has blue colors because she's been using the colors from the Godot logo, so I don't want Robi to be the same. Let's see what we can do with that. Yes, I want these to be neon colors as well. Okay, do we use green? This one, deep green. Then for the top piece, maybe same color as the face, or are we going to use the dark tone? For the dark tone, I'm going to try to find a complementary blue color to the slightly aqua green that we have here. It's mostly gray, but I don't want it to be pure grayscale. Okay, so the way the character works on this screenshot is the thighs are black, so you alternate between a bright piece and a dark piece. And so we're going to use the same light color. The rest of the pieces on the firearm, which we're going to pimp up really soon. Okay, like that. And for the back pieces, we're going to use the same colors, but a darker base variation to make the character easier to read. And whoops. Like so. And then I want you to be behind and to use a darker version of that color. Alright, should do the trick. Oh, this one should also be, I don't know, that alternating the colors like that. How is it? How about some green here, or some green glow, maybe? What do we do? Yeah, maybe have some kind of V on the chest. That seems to be enough. Okay, I'm going to sculpt this one as well. A little bit, sculpt the thigh piece. Maybe you can add a knee pad to hide the junction between the thigh and the leg piece right here, so we could add a new layer. Wonder if it's a good idea right now, but let's see. What? All too ambiguous, wasn't it? Well, okay. Let's try to add the pad's not gonna be green, but actually, because the knee pad is going to help sell the direction which the leg is pointing towards, so that's why I'm yeah, let's see, let's try. Actually, in green it might not be that bad. Okay. Time to add the face, the facial features. I like these ones, very simple. More so than the second concept. So high mouth, and we're going to try some of that electric blue here for the facial features. So I want it to look a little organic, not too robotic at this point. And there we have Robi the robot, the base. Got to make some fixes still, but at least it's a start. Yeah, it's going a little faster than the previous stream from 2 days ago, right? But that's the problem. I haven't had the opportunity to do a lot of art, so I have to get back into it. Yeah, you're getting the palm a lot. Okay, so maybe I should remove the webcam then. It's what do you think? Is the webcam okay, or do you want me to stop it? Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do for shading is to do it quick and dirty. So you've got to shade the individual pieces together pretty quickly. But I'm getting lost in thought. You want to shade the various sprites individually as soon as possible, but to start with, to get a sense for the character's perspective, orientation, I recommend to use some multiply mode stuff like that to quickly set a base for the character, just like I did on Godette actually. And yeah, right now it's looking pretty ugly. The limbs are missing details, but you're going to see it start to make sense in a few. Point is just to get a sense for the character's shading, the shapes, and to quickly see how it might look in the end, giving it a bit of volume, right? Because you can see, for example, the headpiece and a few things like these, they look especially flat. And as soon as you start to give them a bit of depth, it's like, ah, actually, there's something in there. Krita is slowing down, starting to have a few too many layers, I think. And yeah, that purple is way too strong, but that's one tip when you do design and things like these that I recommend. Use something that's over the top. You need a bit of experience to assess whether it's going to be right or not, and then you tune it down. So from there, from what I have, I can do two things. For one, I can control lightness, saturation of that purple. I can change the tone anytime, right? Like so. And then tone the shadows down and add a second shadow layer. But yeah, I think the parts are mostly fine. So now it's still in need for a few more details, for example on this body part, and a bit of sharpening on the shape and the edges. So let's do that, which I'm going to do with the liquify tool. Yeah, by the way, so for those who are wondering about the wonky streaming times, I live in Japan. I live in a share house, so at the moment I can't stream whenever I want. And I've been looking at, the thing is, not living in Tokyo or in such a big city, so as a foreigner, having a company based in France, at the moment it's a little complicated to rent an office, right? And you have companies for foreigners in big cities like Tokyo, Osaka, but for example, I could rent in Osaka or Kyoto an office where I could stream and go work anytime, but that would cost money and train, renting the space as well, so it's not worth it at the moment. So that's why I can't stream and record anytime I want, but at the same time I can live with low expenses and keep doing G Quest. So it's worthy trade-off. And at the same time study Japanese, which I'm deeply interested in. All right. And so next year I may come back to properly study as well. Let's see. Yeah, okay, this piece should be filled. Ah, I have the wrong brush. I see. That's why it's not so sharp. Yeah, next year if I'm in a university, or a language school, chances are it'll be in Osaka, and so there are co-working spaces, and I'll probably be able to figure something out. It'll depend on the company's revenue at that time, because the priority is, well, for me, making a modest living, and then the rest of the money at the moment goes to hiring other people, right? And that's really we're running on limited funds, so it's like most open source projects, or projects that, well, I shouldn't say that, because there are big companies that work with open source or develop open source tools. But yeah, it's just we're not going to be rich with what we're doing. But better be happy than be rich. So hold on. It might be better. Can cover up things that people may want to see. What should I move the screen to the right, on the webcam? Ta-da-dum. No, what have you been? Come on. I need to copy. Hey, Krita, when I say Control C, okay, if I don't have a selection, you don't want to copy the content of the layer. Ah, well, I'm doing that, but actually I could do Control J to directly duplicate the layer. So I'm using a nightly build of Krita, and so far I haven't had that issue where you press Control T and that's been around for so long. You press Control T and you won't be able to transform your layer. It seems to be working fine for now. I've got to see, because it was, if I remember, they couldn't really fix it for the longest time. Like, it was really a tricky problem. Problem I'm talking about is selecting anything and pressing Control T, and it would not. Sometimes you see you press Control T, nothing happens, then you have to click. So you change layer. Yeah, if I change layer right after transforming something, it still doesn't work. But there's already quite a bit of improvement there. There are really small things like these in Krita that, once fixed, the small quality of life improvements that make a big difference. And I think the current project to correct as many bugs as possible and stabilize the program will help a lot to get adoption from professionals. I hope there will be more coming to the program. And with the tools that we're looking to work on, and long-term collaboration with, trying to support Krita in the long term, like some other people and artists are doing, and eventually I hope that more schools are going to cover Krita as well in the future. There was a game dev school who was looking to teach it, a big one, SR Digital, I think. They were considering teaching it, and there are a few like these. They got me to come and cover Krita in Brussels as well. Last year, before coming to Japan. That was a pretty good experience. Again, to game art students, but yeah. Krita has some really good tools that other programs lack, even. I think it'd be fair to say so. Now they're working on making things tie better together. I mean, in every program, there's always room for improvement, for better performances and all. But, yeah. Krita is, like, if you look at GIMP and Krita and Inkscape, Krita is really the one for professional use and professional needs that has had tools that you needed for professional. I can't say that other tools don't allow you to do professional work. They have some real strengths, but the complete set of tools to do professional graphic game art work, Krita had them all, but the UX has been lacking behind. And there are things you can do, for example, that you could not do until recent versions. If I have a file, a sprite, now I can directly link it as an external file. So you can create library of reusable files and symbols for Krita. So I can reference any file. For example, if I want to make a master document with my characters, now I can drop them and insert them as file layers quickly, things like these. So that way you're going to be able to export all your characters and sprites in batch. You know, there's already a batch export script that ships with Krita, and we're going to make some tools as well with Razvan, open source tools. That's, well, if the Krita devs, if they are good enough and the devs want them, we'll have them in Krita by default as well. If you want to move the webcam placement on the stream, you can probably put it in the top right over the document preview. Ah, good idea. Okay, going to do that real quick so I don't have a mouse. Sorry. Nope, that's what I'm trying to do. And we're going to move you. Hold on. Woo! Hello, I am Krita. Or I am Robi. Whatever. You know what? I really shouldn't drink any more, but I want to make some coffee. So let's make some coffee. Okay, I don't need this anymore. I'm going to keep this one around. Robi, this one, no thanks. And we're going to keep the 3D character. What do you think of the green on the character? And I'm going to make the eyes green as well, I think. On top of that, actually, with the 3 characters... no. Actually, our colors are purple. Because we have a color code now on GDQuest. Okay, I'm making coffee. Hold on, I'm going to draw that on the screen, because just so you know. Coffee. Or you could say in Japanese, it's easy enough. Hold on. How do you... In katakana, how do you draw the hi? Hold on. I write all the time with the computer, so... he is like that. Yeah, I'm completely wrong. Making coffee while drawing, so almost. Just look at that. Well, look at that. No, you're not going to see it because I'm not in front of the screen, but I happen to be in a kitchen and I can make coffee while still talking with you. So, yeah, free talk for a few moments. The only thing is I'm going to grind coffee, so while I'm doing that, I'll shut the mic down. I would love to show you, but turning the computer is going to be a little tough, so what can we talk about? Yeah, the JRPG project this character is part of is seeing incredible contributions. Really, I'm amazed that. So we've got Mariano today, who Mariano has contributed the new Tileset Editor in Godot 3.1, and so he's made a command system for the battle system. So now you can create any commands in your game, like in the old Final Fantasy VI. You know, you had quite a few characters, and some of them had a special command, like Blitz for what was the character's name, the monk in the game. So it created that mini game where you would input a key sequence, and this would have him do different attacks, and only this character can do that. And in our system, we can do that thanks to Mariano now. Okay, I'm cutting the mic for just a few moments to grind coffee, so it doesn't kill your ears. See you in a sec. Okay, done. I'm gonna take a look at the chat as well. Hold on, I just need to get my drip. Where is it? Over there. I hope you don't mind that the streams are not too professional, but it's really, for me, it's hangout time, you know, when we do these streams. And the more professional, what matters is that the information in the tutorials is condensed a little more, and that during the streams you can come, ask your questions, things like these. Maybe see the art process, or you know, but besides that, yeah, it's really more about getting in touch and hanging out a little bit, to me at least. But if you have any requests, as usual, don't hesitate. Hold on, while the water finishes boiling, I'm going to check the chat. What are we talking about? Let's drink coffee time. By the way, I wonder if there's anyone, because not everyone posts in here, but maybe sometime there can be some local people, you know, some friends from around here. And then it's like, oh, I was on the stream that day, you know, next time we meet. It's quite fun, actually. Alright, water's ready. I I think Godot-chan's design is kind of a restriction here. Her hair buns are weird, personally. But the blue color looks so much better on Robi too. Yeah, but blue is really in the Godot-chan's identity. And yeah, electric blue works well for robots because it's a color that's often used for electricity or energy or to give a futuristic look. I guess I wonder if this is due in part to how blue LEDs were cheapest to produce, and I think blue light is still the easiest to produce right now and the cheapest to produce electrically. So how much of a connection does it has with that, with the fact that we use these blue LEDs and we've used them in computers and in plants, in factories, things like these, for machines for a long time. So the kind of give a hint of technology, something like that, I think. One of these questions. How do you put a game on consoles with Godot? Tough question. So that's often a beginner's question. Porting a game to console, regardless of the engine, is very costly. So often you need very experienced, like you have restrictions from the console manufacturer, you have very tight guidelines to follow that influence the game's design and all that stuff. So that the game can work on all TV screens and all that stuff, it has to pass the manufacturer's QA. So yeah, it's really something. If you're asking yourself that question, you're probably not ready to, and you're asking for a tutorial for that, you're not ready to develop for console. The people who created Blue LED got a Nobel Prize for it a few years back. That's quite interesting. Someone says, I like Andres Ezo's version of the Godot bot the best. Yeah, it's really slick. However, that's not the same character. So Robi and Godot are two characters of the play waiting for Godot. And so Robi, I guess because it starts with an R, became Robi the robot. And Godot is, well, Godot is the engine's logo, really. It was probably not meant as a character. You know, the characters are Robi and Godette, the official ones, I would say. But yeah, the Godot bot is the engine. It's a character or the thing you are waiting for. Okay, time to work on shading now, and I'm going to use that other brush, and this time I'm going to try a workflow where I don't waste as much time as last time. Okay, so let's try to just find the right color. I think, how about we try with multiply here? It's too strong. Not strong enough. Okay, perfect. And back to normal. Let me try with a hard brush first. Okay. Is there enough contrast? Well, I'll add some highlights later. Should do the trick. Okay, these I want this softer brush on the other hand. So we're going to multiply. I don't think it's going to work. Yeah. This one is too saturated. Let's use a less saturated tone. Start from that. And I have to get used to that key binding. It's really weird too. You've been using the same keyboard types for the longest time, and then you start to work with pinky and fourth finger here to do Shift A, because now the shift position is not what it used to be in. Okay, so first I'm going to add some shadow in that area. Right. And then we'll try to make it look... I wonder, does it need to look like it's lit? Let's see. Okay, same thing. How are we going to do this here? So we're seeing that part from there. Okay, and this is probably... This is probably in the shadow, so... Yeah. How about the license? Because Godot is open source. Ah, come on. Doesn't change a thing. Now, no problem, you own your code and all that stuff. Everything you make with Godot is yours. Godot is not under restrictive license, so that's really... You can make whatever you want with it and sell it however you'd like. Welcome to Japan. Can you hear? Gets me every time. Sorry. So yeah, we get that kind of... You have a truck that comes like promotional truck. And what are they selling? I didn't even get... I can't hear from here, but they're selling something for 1,600 yen. But yeah, you get sometimes when they come to collect special, like the trucks that come to collect special types of trash, same thing. It's really noisy. They have the worst speaker, and they're like, oh, we can get TVs, whatever, you know, all the appliances you want to throw away, and it's so noisy. And this one with the weird kids music. I wonder if it's a good idea, yeah, to have it on the pad as well. Okay, let's see. Anyway. Not sure how to best handle the shadows around here, so I need an individual shadow on every piece. So maybe using that gray. Is it good? Yeah, it's good. Okay. I wonder. Maybe I'll try to tint the shadow manually from here. I don't know. I'm not sure. How about this kind of shadow color? What do you think? I think it looks good enough. Okay. Yeah, it should be working. It should work. No, it's not. It's not ice cream. Not at all. I don't know what they were selling, but whatever service, really. I don't know. How much did the Godette take in total? To be fair, I don't know. I didn't track time. The stream was really inefficient, so I was making extremely slow progress that day. And well, now I'm slowing down as well, so might start to take a little bit of time. Okay. I really don't know about the shadows. Is there any artist around to tear my work apart? By the way, if anyone is around Tokyo next month, I'm planning to go to the next Tokyo Indies, an event, local event. It's apparently mostly in Japanese, but to give a presentation about Godot, about the engine, and about the open RPG that we are making. So it's just a 5 minutes presentation, but if you are interested and you happen to be around, just tell me. We can meet, because probably be spending at least one night. I should be looking more at the overview in the top right, but it's a bit far from my eyes. Yeah, I think it's starting to look like something, at least. We'll still need some highlights afterwards, but... Jeez, it's dark. And regarding, I saw a comment about, like, right now it doesn't look like it's glowing, but that's normal. That's something, if you do it last, and maybe you want to do it in the engine. At the moment, these stripes also don't look that like they are inset, or don't look like insets, so I also have some work to do on that. But at least this art style is starting to take form. The shadow color. For the shadows, I was wondering, like, if we could find some way to have a uniform shadow color to make the entire game and characters, the entire demo and the characters consistent but vibrant at the same time. So there's still some work to do on that. I hope, like, just like we have some really nice developers helping at the moment, because there's been I started talking about this when I was making coffee, but we, like, today it was so great to just wake up and see so many contributions, you know. So we have Nicholas, who's working on he's been adding battle formations on the monsters. It's done. It's merged as well. We have some skill system from Guilherme. We have conversations, a dialogue box as well. We have grid-based movement that's been integrated by Salah Da, I think that's his nickname, but I don't know his real name. And yeah, I mean, there are quite a few systems in place. We have the battle commands by Mariano, and we have some Godot Grant, you were in the chat right earlier, who's contributing as well. So he's fixed a bug to start with, and right before starting the stream I got an email saying there was a new PR waiting, so gotta go check that afterwards. And those kinds of things are incredible, because that's not even when I started GD Quest. Really, it was the early days were not even about open source. I got into open source through GD Quest. The mission from the start was about sharing techniques and make them as accessible, as universally accessible as possible. And then open source made sense for that, you know, because what we are doing is not just about teaching people to make games. If it was just about game creation, you don't need to use open source for that. You'd better, actually, if you want to teach people to make games, better use, and you want to reach lots of people, better straight go to the most popular option, so Unity or something like that. You can get partnerships, you can make more money, so you can sustain people, hire people to do training material and all that stuff. On the other hand, if you have a different goal, like bringing people together, which is one of the missions behind GD Quest, you know, it's sharing the techniques that you can use to create professional games, but at the same time, it's what I deeply care about personally, is bringing people together on projects, and that's where open source really makes a lot of sense. The ability for anyone to contribute, to benefit from the work, and the fact that you get people to share, to work hand in hand, but without forcing anything. Like, people who want to contribute, who want to get better, who want to get the most of the project, they can invest themselves, and the others, they can just use whatever they want to use. They can enjoy the work that they get, you know. So that's actually how I got into caring about open source, because from the start, even when I did the first Krita Kickstarter, I mean, when you look at the budget, the kind of money you can make and all that stuff, it's, if you don't care about these things, if you're in it for the money, it doesn't work, right? And the people you meet in open source, a lot of them, even like, for example, Juan and Remy, who respectively lead development and administrate Godot, they're really doing it for the intrinsic value and the fact that they deeply care about what the change they are bringing to the world, I think. Because the money they make, like their salary, is, for example, for someone with Juan's experience, he could probably make easily 3 times the money he makes, and this would cost the company, like the base cost for his work, would easily be 20 times, 15 to 20 times what money he costs as part of the Godot project. It's like such an experienced engineer, yeah, the company's easily going to spend $15,000 to $20,000 a month to have someone like that around. Remy, same thing. He worked as an engineer, and he accepted to come work full-time on Godot. And it's incredible. His salary probably went down quite a bit, right? He accepted such a trade-off. And a lot of people work on Godot and contribute benevolently as well. And Remy's done that for a long time, and Juan has also worked on it like that, like as a passion project for a little while. And that's something that might be hard to realize at first, but nowadays we are really lucky to get incredible technologies that we can use not only for free but also freely. When you use any technology from Google or you use Facebook or something like that, they do contribute to open source or Microsoft's products. But there's a trade-off. You are paying with your data and identity. Yeah. Anyway, sorry for the monologue. Is the repository public and available for what? For this game, this project? If that's what you're asking about, it should be in the video description. Only if I didn't forget to put the link. What do we do for the pad? Do we try something like that? Or with stripes? Let's see. Nope. One stripe. Nah, it's too much contrast in around the bottom of the character. But the green, not sure. It's not too great. Okay, let's use the curves to try to. Okay, so where is my shadow color? We're going to use levels to find. Yeah, pretty hard to find, right? Okay, doesn't work. Well, it's fine. We're going to paint it over. Okay, this pad will need a bit of love later, but how about the leg now? Because if we remove green on the pad, should probably add a stripe on the leg. What do you think? I think you're correct. Am I not? D. James saying my memory's like RAM. After 15 minutes, I sleep for 15 minutes and I can't remember anything. Write it down. Try to get a hard drive, a notebook. You collect lots of data, you write everything down, and then you never check it again. That's also an option, right? Yeah, I don't know, the pad, if it's just white, does it do the job? Alright, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, like with the drop shadow, it's... I don't know about the character's shadows. Well, we're still in the testing phase for the character, so... And the art. I need to put it in the game later, but I also want to... I'm making a character... This is really indie style work here. You're making a character that will serve as a game asset, an element for a tutorial, but at the same time a bit as a piece of artwork. You know, so you're trying to hit as many birds as you can with one stone, which is not professionally. You would start with proper concepts, you know. Color experimentations, things like these, and only once you have them, you start to invest time into building assets that you can use in the game. But I also think that making these assets, like in my experience working in games and with indie teams, it's quite common that it's not uncommon to build kind of the final assets. For example, when I was working in mobile, the game projects are short and small enough that you work on the final assets almost from the start. Do you actually take notes for studying, or do you have some other habits? I don't know if the question is for me. Is it for me? Or is it for DJ, for example? The character's starting to look like something. Starting to like where this is going. For me, okay, so what are my studying habits? I use a variety of tools. I use spaced repetition tools for lots of things, including for development. So I use an app called Anki for that, which I've used initially to study language, but for example, to learn VI key bindings when I'm doing programming. I've also used that. I think the most important part, especially with development, is taking the time, one, to read, so the documentation, the manual, and second, to get to a point in your life where you also do the things, which is when I see people trying to get into game development, they stop when, like, more into the hobbyist sphere, but also young students. they stop when they have an issue, and they wait. Quite a few people tend to wait to get the answer, you know, and they don't train their patience or try to work through the frustration. So if you're making games as a hobby, it's fine. It's just not going to take you very far, right? Because what you do as a developer is you get bugs and problems almost pretty much every single day, and you fix them on your own. That's your job, or a big part of it is, at least. But I think that's the way tutorials work on the internet, for example. They don't make that part very clear, because to make tutorials accessible to as many people as possible and to get as large of an audience as possible, you want to make them so they ease the person into the topic. So step by step, often. Click here, do this, do that. But even when you are doing graphic design and all, that's not how you work. That's not the process. And to me, how could I say? The studying habit I would recommend the most is doing it small and daily for anything, like the most general piece of advice I could give. And this is something I do. So when I want to pick up something, I assess whether it's worth my time or not. And if it is, then I'll put the tools, I'll put everything in place so that I get to study every single day at least a little bit and strengthen that habit progressively. Let's see. So for example, GD Quest is streaming. Look at that. I use this app, mostly for Japanese, but hold on, I hid the stream. There you are. It's like that, and like that. Okay, there we go. So Anki Droid, and I add cards for programming, for example. So as you encounter new things that you want to remember, you really want also to gradually use a tool that makes it as easy as possible to keep the information, keep only the parts of the information that you want to store. For me, like when I use flashcards, I like this approach, you know, and I make it as bite-sized as possible. So it's really for Vim key bindings, for example. At first, it would be like delete. That's all you have on the card. You know, don't try to make sentences, or just try to get the essence of the information. For things that you want to learn by heart, right? So yeah, when you're studying something a little more in depth, I do take notes at times, but the way I do it, because the truth is, if you take really long notes, it's when you are learning something for practical needs, so you are trying to solve a problem through code or something like that, and you need to learn new API or something along those lines, you really want to create a project where you will get to produce, how could I say? You want to create a project where you get to use the features that you are going to learn, and that way, these are your notes, right? You don't need to write with words all the time, I think. But if there's something, another, sorry, another way I do things is my notes, I will write them as if I was teaching to someone else most of the time. And I will also often, instead of writing notes, I will teach the thing to somebody else. I will try to, somebody who's interested in that. So I will find someone, you know, if I figure out something. We've done that with when I was doing a bit of research on input in Godot. So I went to the docs, I read some documents about that, and I learned a few things that some friends may have not known. So I just go there and I say, oh, I was looking up the docs and you can do X, Y, Z. You know, I try to explain how the system works to the best of my ability. I take the time to edit that and send it to them, and it can become a conversation. They can ask for clarification and all. So that way you know whether or not you got it. This does two things. Teaching allows you to see whether or not you understand something, because until you can teach it, you haven't digested it completely. And then it's also, you might think that you know or understand something, but actually until you get the words out of you, you can't be sure of that. You can't be 100% sure of that. When we put out thoughts on paper and we start to formulate them with words, we are actually creating the thoughts and the story as we do. So as much as you are pulling from memory, you are creating the definition for yourself. You are putting your own words. You are creating the story of what you learned. Just as much as, even if it feels like you are repeating something that you know, you are actually learning it by explaining it to some extent. And one thing I can tell you as a result of that is, for example, making these tutorials and all, it takes a lot of time. And so when you do so, you don't get to produce as much art, etc. And yet, when I get back to art, even if I'm very far from the experience that other developers who work full-time might have, I can get the job done. And the things I teach, for example, I can later work onto code and all, and because I've taken the time to explain them to other people, I can do some programming. How could I say? I could write some programming patterns, design patterns, for example, in code or things like these. Just having sorry, I'm losing my Latin. So yeah, now I can code some design patterns and think, just having processed them, explain them to other people and all, I can implement them fully. Or I can do that. I can use different languages and all. I can do development work, solve problems. Not at an outstanding level, but like, it has practical applications in the end, even though I don't write as much code as I would like, for example, because producing the tutorials takes a lot of time. You still get some stuff out of it. You still get a lot out of it. Sorry. How to make... good morning. We have the administrator. We have the what should we say? The gauntlet of death, the monster who might reject your PRs. No, that's not true actually. Pretty kind guy. Aiken, Godot's administrator. On the stream. Imagine if someday if Juan would join. That would be amazing. That would be a dream come true. Now I'm joking, but love the chibi style you're going with these. Well, glad if it works. The idea is to make the characters so that they would work on mobile, for example. Because we're building a system and a tool and a demo to go along with that tool. What if someone comes at some point and says, I would like to make a PR to add touch support? Well, the character art should work with that, should accommodate for both. Even if the target is desktop games to start with, like that would be the core target for the system. Yeah, I want it to be usable on mobile as well. So, and anyway, I'm a rusty artist, so I need a bit of it's a bit easier for me to do these chibi characters. And I think it also contributes to the Godot designs that we have. So there's a beautiful manga character version of Godette now already. There's been the 3D like PBR version of Robi. And yeah, I think that other artists could do that much better than I can. So I'm going for cute. Juan is locked in a room fixing issues right now. Yeah, but the thing is, if you do that with him, like in 2 days, he'll be done. So how many? He might have hundreds of issues to fix. It'll soon be done. So Lovepreet was Lovepreet? Is it how you say? Oh, your name is Sign. I don't know. Sorry about the pronunciation. I don't know how you read it, but there's that question. Right now, you're painting in purple. Can you easily make the shadows blue? No, not with that approach. There are ways to do that, but first we have to make the I have to make the character sprites work. And then, well, if, for example, you want to change the shadows to blue, you can use filters and you can use a script to go back through the character and adapt that later. That's feasible on this one. But you know, that's why you do concept art when you are making a game. It's so that you first, and you do art tests as well. You do the tests, you put them in the game, you see that everything works, and then you can commit to a given style. But I'll admit that what I'm doing right now is not optimal. Definitely. It's just that I know that purple is going to work, for one, that color. But yeah, then it means that in the game you can't change the shadows however you'd like, right? Okay, time to do the eyes. How about... just give them a bit of depth and a bit of value contrast so that they are visible on top of the face, like so. Alright, so now the next question is, do we want to add some contour, some outline to the character or not. We're going to try that. Oh, I need to finish this one. Let's see. Oh, and I'm missing also. That will be a bit better if this one has a green stripe as well. The back. But you know about doing things not optimally. The thing is, I talk quite a bit, too much probably on these streams, and when you talk, it's, you know, you have to follow the process that you are in, because otherwise it's too hard to track your thoughts. So yeah, that's what's happening at the moment. Okay, so how about I put the shadow. Okay, put these here, separate element. How about the headpiece? It's fine, but it's a little too... I think I want to have a little more contrast on the headpiece. Make it just a little lighter to make the face pop compared to the rest of the body. I'm going to darken the back leg a little extra, a little more. Seems, yeah, it's fine right now, it's fine. Not outstanding. The shadows are way completely over the top, but... by the way, you were asking, actually, it's not correct. I can quite easily change the shadow colors, quite easily desaturate them, and we can also desaturate them like that and recolor them from the engine, no problem. But yeah, first I think there's more work to be done on the shading and all, and getting the character art style right. So this is going to be the backlist style, but then there's a need for some UI art and putting an art direction together, because right now it's really just characters, right? And I'm playing with shapes and shadows, but it's not too extraordinary at the moment. That's also how I used to work as an artist. So when I did it professionally with graphic design, I feel a lot more comfortable with graphic design compared to illustration and all. I'm really a designer at heart, but especially if I'm working alone, like I have to focus on something, I like to play with the design, the shapes and the volume for a little while, put the thing together. So right now I'm liking where the character is going, and one of the reasons I'm struggling while I'm talking is I'm thinking with or without words about, for example, this shape is not how I want it to be. I want to have that extrusion and going back inside the face of the character, and I want to have more value contrast and to better define the mechanical features of the character and things like these. So I like to think about the art direction, quote unquote, doing that kind of work, playing a bit with the shape, the volumes, the colors, because right now I'm taking design decisions for the future of the project. So you can see already that the two character sprites are quite different, and I realized working on Godette that I like the gamey style that she has, but I prefer the detailed feel of that kind of full shading on the character. And we can have, you know, both can work on game art. It's a matter of picking the direction that you want the most. So, but making the full shading like on Robi would take quite a bit of time if you want to shade the entire game like that. So you've got to think carefully about what you're doing, right? There's a cost. Electric Blue Eyes is definitely a bit better. How about some yellow? Doesn't work too well, so the blue works well. Green is not as cool. I think we're going to go with Blue Eyes. Okay, and regarding, so there was a comment that right now it doesn't feel like the character's glowing, so it's normal. The way you do that with a traditional raster graphics is I'm going to pick the color from the character and I'm going to lock the alpha. Then I'll use the filter menu, Alt R, blur, Gaussian blur, and you add a bit of a blur to the layer, and there you go. You get a glow. Then you want to play a bit with the blur. You might want to have 2 layers of it. Lighten it a little bit. There you go. That's how you create a cheap blur effect. And then you have to pick the areas where you really want to have that. Oh, another reason to take the time to play with the colors and all. So again, normally you'd have a concept artist to do that. You'd have someone who has more training than I do. And it takes time, regardless of that. But then at first you might want to see that the contrast on the character is off because there's no one here to check on it. So then you want to do something like that. You know, you want to paint the character, you'll play a bit with filters, and integrate the assets like that into the game, see what works best before you really commit to the style. But yeah, Robi should be white. Clearly, the contrast was completely off. And it's something I've done time and time again to, when you are working with someone else, the person can check another artist and say, it's the base color is too dark, so then you can correct it pretty quickly. Also, yeah, I should have checked the perspective as well. Let's see, okay. I'm going to take the head group. Group these two. Nope. What am I doing? These 3. Okay, and now I can fix the perspective in here a little bit. But yeah, so what I wanted to say earlier is, early on in the process, I like to take my time. And often I'm thinking, not right now in the stream, I can't do it because I'm speaking all the time. But I like to think quite hard and take decisions one at a time. Small things. Is this shape working? This approach working? How about the pipeline? What tools are we going to need to build to achieve that and all that stuff? I'm thinking about all these things. Maybe because I do a bit of everything as well on the projects. And then you want to set up the pipeline right. finally you can just roll on from there. Yeah, the purple is too strong on the shadows. The right shoulder doesn't have the green grip. Good catch. What am I? I'm painting on the wrong layer. Okay, let's try it this way. Alright, and this pad looks a little too dark to me. I'm trying to get the white part a little whiter, or a little more white. Alright, the last one to fix is this one, I think. Adding some shade. More importantly, the character doesn't have highlights still, so we're going to work on that. Now add a bit of shadow in here as well. I kind of call this a day. In-game, yeah, I don't want to have too many sharp highlights. I do want to have some. So I'm going to add them around the head, around the body parts where you want to attract the eye. So here, what are we going to give you? Same color, maybe screen or something. What do we have? Screen here. I like the idea that you can really sculpt when you are painting. You can sculpt the character's features slowly, and that's the kind of workflow I like the most. That's kind of how I do graphic design as well. I nudge things around a lot, block out really quickly and then tweak and iterate. While some people like to start over. People who draw, who have a lot of experience with that, might be able to draw, to start from more or less from scratch. Every time like to draw something, draw all the shapes and all. Then sure, still when they are painting or something else, sculpt, but when you are not dedicated to that craft, to me it's a lot easier to iterate over what you've created. So take it slow at first, and then come back to it, iterate over it, reuse the same elements as a base. I'd be the kind of guy, for example, working in 3D, would make a library. I didn't get to do it in 2D, but could make an asset library and reuse the components and use booleans to put them together. That's why I've been doing more vector art lately than what you're seeing now. Painting, because you can really compose assets and take the things again and again. You will see the same sprites coming again and again in different shapes in the YouTube thumbnails. Well, it's also something that you have to do if you have limited resources and time, right? I wish there was a way to put layers in a group or something and then apply an effect to the group so you could saturate the layer of your choice all at once. Yes, that's correct. That would be very useful. It's not possible out of the box in Photoshop either. It's something I've wanted to do because it's easy to make a mistake or to have, you know, client, even when you are working for a client or something, and they come to you and they say, oh, it's, you know, I would like this changed to that color or more contrast here, or maybe you want to do that at some point, and you have to go back through the layers. You have to like, you can set up your layers from the start in a way so that you can do that, recolor the characters, but the only way to do this then is to use a script, right? To batch apply a filter to a series of layers. Krita already gives you that out of the box for transforms, so that's pretty cool. The problem with filters is batch applying them to layers individually. With besides, like, aside from the hue saturation filter, the others, for example, levels, kind of depends on the image that you know, the way you pull the levels depends on the histogram of your image, and the histogram of individual layers is different from the histogram of composed layers, right? Although levels should work. Levels should be deterministic. Curves should work as well. Let me think. Now, actually, for most basic filters, it should work. The reason I think it's not done out of the box is performances, maybe. And also because if you follow a more professional workflow and approach, you know, you don't have these issues too often. Alright, so one of the reasons I didn't go with white from the start was so that we could have white highlights on the character, but actually I think his face will be better with, like, white. Yeah. The green is lacking contrast, and especially on the face it's too weak. Hold on, locking this layer. We're going to work a bit on these. So what did I select? Oh, I locked the wrong layer. Okay. This is okay. Okay, and I'm going to lock this one now. Okay. Control backslash. Control slash, sorry. To lock. With the filter on top, it's lagging a little bit at the moment. I don't know if I should give these stripes some glow or not. Let's see. Okay. Okay, I was on the wrong layer. Okay, let's try. So we're going to fill you with a light teal color. let's give this a try. So filter, we're going to add some Gaussian blur again here. Alright. I have to remove the lock alpha, otherwise it's not going to work. Why is it not working? The alpha's not locked? Alright, screen. What do you think? Don't find it that great. The shadows are a little off on the stripes as well, but I don't know. Not convinced. But I think, yeah, for now, this gives us a base character. That is fine. And now I need some feedback, really. I need some feedback from fellow artists between the two characters. The last thing I want to try, though, and I want to check, is adding some strokes on the face and all. So, let's do that. We're going to grab the face, and where was the tool? Is it in Select? Stroke Selection. Or is it Edit? Stroke Selection. There we go. With the brush, what brush do I have? Okay, I'm going to take this one, and we need, okay, so to go to Select, grow the selection by 10 pixels. Okay, and then Edit Stroke. Alright, finally go to something that will complement the face. For the color. Yeah, so instantly, look at that. It's not much, but adding that little bit, maybe on not on all body parts, but at least on the head. I'm going to play a bit with the color here. It really makes the character pop instantly. Just a little bit. The stroke is not big enough. I wish I could use the layer effects, but they are a bit too slow at the moment. Okay. Let's go back to Select Grow. 16, 18 pixels. Should be a bit better. A little too big maybe. And do the same. And just fill. Yeah, okay, so not on all body parts maybe, but a stroke at least on the head is welcome. What do you think? I simultaneously both, what? Love and hate your art style. Okay. Alright. There's one thing I wish we could add to Krita is when you press Ctrl X, Ctrl Z, by default either cut the pixels or better maybe cut the layer. Well, I don't know if that would be better, but instead of having to do right click, cut the layer, here and right click, paste it later. This one is a little too dark. Should we go with purple here as well? Go with the same color. It's not going to work too well, but yeah, does the job. I think the Robi is definitely cleaner than Godette at the moment, and have to see what I can do to improve based on that, to improve the overall design, but okay. Can you try to make a thick outline? Hold on. Is Robi supposed to have a metal material for the armor plates? The idea is that it's not really final on the matte plastic material. This current lighting imitates, looks nicer and more friendly. Yeah, I don't want it to have too metallic shading. Because then it doesn't work in different lighting conditions, so plastic style works not too bad. Can you try to make it thick? Well, you can give a metallic shading. I've done it in the past on mobile games, but the problem is, yeah, you can't change the lighting conditions. If you want to really move the character, have large movements, like I would have to see, but the character I have in reference, well, this guy is a really experienced professional, so he certainly does it right, but you can't have too much motion. So you can have small motion like that, or character moving a bit like that, but you can't have as much. If you use a really strong shading, you have to draw different sprites then to animate things going in space, while if you have a smoother shading and a more matte one, it's a lot easier to cheat a little bit. So when you are short on resources, this doesn't work too bad. Okay, so an outline around the entire body. The thing is, we can't use it in game, right? That's the reason not using that, but let's see now. Can we does it work if I do that? Oh yeah, it works. I can do this, do that, and do that, and soon we have the entire body. Okay, so let's create a new layer. Selection, expand, nope, row. I'm getting a little tired, as you can hear, so I'm gonna soon be tapping out. Yeah, it's been over 2 hours. I mean, the stroke looks great around the body, but thing is, well, in game we can have that with a shader maybe. And that would be nice. But yeah, it definitely makes the character pop that way. Okay, so that is Robi. And let's see over transparent background. So yeah, it already looks a bit better than Godette, I think. I like the overall features, the design, the shading. There's always room for improvement, but I think we can only do so much with this project. We'll see. Okay, what do you think? And thanks, Scrap Tools, for the outline suggestion for the body. Yeah, the outline is quite thick, but hold on. And the head. I got to lock this one, then go here, select. I'm going to go to select, shrink, and go by 4 pixels. Let's see. Yeah, it depends on the zoom level, because you see when I'm making this outline, I'm looking at, you can't see it now, but I'm looking at the overview really briefly, and that would be the character size in game, in which case it works well. And well, if you zoom in like really closely to the character, then it doesn't look too good. I definitely agree. But if you go like that, then it doesn't look as bad, I think. Which is kind of the size it would be on screen, maybe like that. Anyway, any questions? Last words? I'm going to end the stream then, I think. It's been a pleasure, as always. Note that there's going to be... Hold on. So I'm going to try and stream a little more in the coming weeks. It's going to be a bit of RPG development. One stream I want to do is picture development with Darktable. I said I would prepare a short video about Japan. So it's in the works, but I need to develop a few more shots for that and to finish writing the script. Yeah, any requests, questions, just you can use the YouTube comments anytime, or send me tweets, or come on Discord. You should have a link in the description, right? Because we have a Discord server. And thank you for being around. Thanks everyone for watching. That said, be creative, have fun, and let's see one another wrong. Let's see one another in the next stream. Bye bye.